Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Jody Padar. Jody is the Vice President of Strategy, is that correct? Did I get
That's
that right?
correct.
At BotKeeper, and also the Radical CPA, and a longtime friend of mine. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Oh, for sure. Thanks, Ed. I'm excited to be here.
We are here at AICPA Engage, where it's better to be seen finally and not just viewed.
Thank God, yes.
And we are looking forward to this event. The question that I've been asking folks is this. What have you learned about the CPA profession or CPAs in the last 18 months?
That we're flexible, right? I mean,
Who knew?
And that we're advisors by nature. And so everyone always says, oh, you should be an advisor, you have to learn to be an advisor. Guess what? We did advisory when we had to. So it's in us. We already have it in our DNA. We just need to kind of capitalize on that superpower that we just didn't know we had inside of us.
What I thought was really interesting, and I read this book just before COVID started hitting, was the fact that if you think about the words that we use in the accounting profession, they are all verbal. Accounting, audit. It's very much a verbal thing, not a numbers thing. But somewhere along the line, it got translated into this numbers thing. But the reality is it's verbal and relationship-based.
Right. For some reason, everyone thinks you know math. And, accounting isn't even math. So it's so funny because everyone's like, oh, you're good at math. Oh, no.
No. If you've ever gone out to dinner with CPAs and watched the split of the bill, you'll know that they're not good at math.
Right, for sure.
So the flexibility thing, what do you think is going to enable them going forward? Now that they know they're flexible, what is that going to mean for them in the future?
So I think it gave them a little bit of confidence. I also think it gave them the ability to kind of think on their feet that they haven't necessarily. Again, I think that they always had it in them. They just didn't know it. And so I think it's going to be good for tax legislation as things go and changes happen. They're going to be more just on it, right? They're not going to be waiting so long for all these regs and things like that, because we're going to just kind of embrace what we do, what we've always done, but it always kind of took us a little bit longer. So I think we're just going to move faster. And we need to move faster, really, we do.
Yeah, well, and as I've said a couple times already, we've learned that the IRS and all of these governmental agencies are going to continue to issue clarifications of their clarifications.
Right.
So do what you need to do in order to get it done.
Right, and take a position on it, right?
Yeah.
Take a stand and work with it. And I think, too, that's one of the things that we kind of got more confidence in, right? Because there was so much uncertainty that we had to get certain with what we knew as of that minute. And I think CPAs responded well to it.
Well, talk a little about what you guys are doing at BotKeeper, and what does strategy mean for someone who's the vice president of strategy at technology.
So you got to love strategy, right? Because strategy is everything. But what it means for me is it's really helping the profession move forward, right? So that's always been in my DNA. That's always been my why, is how do we help firms adopt technology, change their business models, move towards technology? And that's my role at BotKeeper, is to help the firms really change as they adopt automation, bots, AI into their firms, because their roles are going to change, and we're there to help them kind of figure out what that looks like, how to move forward, et cetera. Because we all know it's coming. It's here. It's not even coming anymore. So how do we help the CPAs who are kind of used to doing the things that they've always done kind of get comfortable with doing new things and figuring out what that looks like for each firm, which is different, right? Because if you're in a bigger firm, it might be different than if you're in a smaller firm, or if you are accounting firm versus tax or whatever. So it's just helping firms, and that's what I love to do anyway. So Perfect job for me.
Perfect. Well, it's Arthur C. Clarke, I think, said, the future is here. It's just unevenly distributed.
Right.
And it's getting distributed in spades to the CPA profession right now, because they've had to adjust. So I know this is a sensitive topic. I've talked a lot about this. Have you seen any movement in people going, you know what, this billable hour thing not working anymore?
So, okay. Ed, every day they want to know how to change their pricing. So I think that's a start. So that's the number one question that I get asked by all the firms. Can you help me with pricing? Now, they may or may not be ready to drop the billable hour yet, but you have to do pricing first, right? And if we can get them to pricing first, then I think, and they get comfortable with it, then I think we'll be able to kind of push them away from the billable hour. So we're getting there. We really are.
Because the questions that you're hearing are indicating that people are at least willing to take on the subject at this point.
Well, they have to, because, we have people coming into our space with lots of money who are driving prices down, and if CPAs don't figure out...
Is there a guy by the name of Jeff Bezos who dropped, $400 million?
Into a firm called Pilot.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Is that threatening? I don't know.
So they're feeling threatened by it, so they're like, okay, how do I change? And you can't bill 2 minutes. It doesn't work. And how fast does a bot work? A bot works really fast, right? So you have to figure out how to change your pricing, and I really hope that it kind of leads to getting rid of the billable or the time piece of it, right?
The timesheet in general,
right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I know pricing is going to change. What I don't know is if they're still going to track their time, which we agree that it's not right, but not all the firms are there yet.
Yeah, and if you haven't, I know you know who he is, but Reginald Lee, Dr. Reginald Lee has done some great work on this, and his newest book, which is due out I think in a month or two, which I had a chance to write the foreword of. I'm telling you, this is going to be, it's right in alignment with your radical CPA stuff, because this just blows away cost accounting, just destroys it.
Well, and what's funny about it too is firms now, I think they're getting tight with learning how to standardize things, right? So again, before, if you never had to standardize things because you always lived by the billable hour, it didn't matter. But now when you start fixed pricing things, you subscription price things, it's really making firms change how they do work in their firms. And as they get to real good, solid standardization, I think then they can start to kind of let that billable hour go, because again, they're feeling better with the idea that they're not going to have all the scope creep and scope seep that they're going to be they're not going to be profitable.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that are happening, and it's all good. It's just, we got to move faster.
Yeah. Well, and this has certainly helped it along. So I asked you about the CPA profession, but a personal question. What have you learned about yourself in the last 18 months?
Wow. So... So it's funny because this is the first event that I've been at in however long, and I was a little bit anxious about coming here and being with everyone.
Sure.
And it's funny because I think I learned that I'm more introverted than I thought that I was. And I kind of got used to being home. And enjoying being home. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how kind of the whole conference scene shifts. I mean, right now everyone's excited to be out, but what's it going to look like in a year, in 2 years? Sure. Is it going to be back to the way that it was? And I think that, we're adaptable. And I've always thought that I was adaptable, but I guess I didn't realize how adaptable I had to be.
Sure. That's great.
Right.
And as always, ask the same exit question to everyone, regardless of how many times they've been on the show, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
So, it's the Olympics, so we're going to go with sports.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a swimmer. I'm a swimmer.
Right.
So Michael Phelps. So,
sure.
He's amazing. And I think it's just the amount of practice that he put in and that dedication. And me being a swimmer, I'm a distance swimmer, so it's a lot of laps. And so I really identify with just all the training, even though, he's just amazing in general, but just swimmers really kind of are underrated because they don't get but they work really hard. So that's why he's my hero.
Lastly, Jody, how can somebody get a hold of you?
So find me online at Jody Padar, CPA on Twitter, or just Jody Padar on LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me.
All right. Jody Padar, Vice President of Strategy at BotKeeper. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.